All right, today we're jumping into a financial tug-of-war. It's about the laws that are supposed to protect you versus a federal loophole that could cost you a fortune. And it all kicks off with one pretty insane question.
So let's just get right to it. I mean, seriously, could a lender legally smack you with a 175% interest rate? That sounds like something from a mob movie, right? Just completely off the charts illegal. Or is it?
And, well, the answer is yes. A big, shocking yes. Or I should say it was. Until just 2023, in New Mexico, some loans could legally have an annual interest rate of 175%. No, that's not a typo. That was the actual law. And this whole situation just blows the lid off a huge conflict in the U.S. over who exactly gets to decide the price of money.
Okay, so to really get how we ended up here, we've got to go back a bit. Let's look at how states try to protect people like you and me from, really predatory loans.
The big idea here has been around forever. It's called usury. Basically, for centuries, people have agreed there should be a line you just don't cross when it comes to charging crazy high interest. In the U.S. today, it's usually the states that draw that line in the sand.
And New York is a perfect example of this. The state has always had this really strong policy against usury. They just see it as a bad deal for everyone.
And listen to this, New York gets really serious about it. They have 2 levels. If you go over 16%, that's a civil issue. But if you charge more than 25%, whoa, now we're talking criminal usury. That's a felony. And the penalty? It's huge. The loan contract is just gone, void. The lender can't collect a single penny. That's what it looks like when a state really decides to protect its people.
Okay, so if states like New York have these ironclad rules, how in the world are lenders getting away with triple-digit rates? Well, this is where it gets messy, because there's a whole other set of rules, a federal superpower that can just steamroll state laws. This whole thing hinges on a really powerful federal idea called interest rate exportation. It comes from the National Bank Act, and what it does is give federally regulated banks this kind of superpower. They can take the interest rate laws from their own home state and export them to borrowers anywhere else in the country, completely ignoring the local laws.
And this is where you see the head-on collision. You've got a borrower in New York who thinks they're protected by that 25% criminal cap, but if they get a loan from a national bank headquartered in, say, Utah, a state that has no interest rate cap, that Utah bank can legally charge them way, way more than 25%. In this matchup, federal power just totally overrides the state's protections.
But wait, it gets even crazier. Because in the last few years, this whole loophole got a massive upgrade thanks to the rise of fintech companies.
This has led to these schemes that critics have a great name for, rent-a-bank schemes. So here's how it works. A fintech company, which doesn't have that federal superpower, teams up with a bank that does. The whole point is to use the bank's special status to offer these super high-interest loans in states where they should be totally illegal.
It's usually a 4-step dance. First, the fintech firm finds a partner, a bank in a state with, let's say, very relaxed rules. Second, the bank is the one whose name is on the loan. On paper, they're the lender. But then, and this is the whole game right here, the bank almost instantly sells that loan to the fintech partner. And finally, the fintech company is the one who actually collects your payments with that sky-high interest rate, completely sidestepping your state's laws.
One law review put it perfectly. They said, the non-bank is basically renting the bank's legal shield. The bank gets a nice fee for playing along, and the fintech company gets to sell a product that it could never, ever offer on its own.
But look, this isn't just a story about a loophole. The states haven't been taking this lying down. No way. They are actively fighting back. Let's go back to New Mexico, because it really became ground zero for this fight. Remember that insane 175% cap they had in 2017? Well, reformers tried to lower it in 2021, and the bill failed. But they didn't quit. They came back in 2022, pushed again, and this time they won. They passed a bill to drop the rate all the way down to 36%, a huge victory that went into effect in 2023.
So what does a change like that really mean for everyday people? We're talking an estimated $175 million in savings for New Mexicans every single year. That is a life-changing amount of money.
And this fight isn't just in the state legislatures. It's also spilling into the courts. A really interesting case just came out of Colorado, and it opened up a whole new battlefront.
So here, the issue wasn't about the big national banks, but about smaller, state-chartered ones. There's this federal law that actually lets states opt out and block these specific banks from exporting high rates, and Colorado did it.
They used that power, and the court said, yep, you can do that. This slammed the door on a major loophole, meaning those out-of-state banks can't ignore Colorado's 25% limit anymore. It's another way states are trying to take back control.
Okay, so why should you care about all this legal drama and back and forth? Because when the rules are this tangled, it creates the perfect cover for borrowers to get confused or even misled about what a loan is really going to cost them.
Just listen to this real-life example of a small business loan. The owners were told the rate was 15%. Okay, sounds fair. But the fine print. Oh, the fine print didn't list an annual rate. It listed a teeny-tiny daily rate of 0.3%. But what happens when you string that tiny daily rate together for a whole year? The actual interest rate was over 121%. It's a masterclass in how confusing numbers can hide a nasty truth.
And that really gets to the heart of the matter for all of us. Without a single, clear, standard way to measure the cost, like the annual percentage rate or APR, it's just so easy to get lost. You can't compare apples to apples. You don't know the real price. And that's not a fair market.
So that leaves us with this one giant question. As all of our money stuff goes digital, who should be writing the rules? Should it be your own state, the one that's supposed to protect you? Or should it be a bank in a state hundreds of miles away that you've maybe never even been to? The answer to that is going to define the future of borrowing for every single one of us.